Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to today's webcast on how mobile credentials are revolutionizing college campus safety and student experience, brought to you by Mobile Communications America, also known as MCA. I'm Robin Hattersley, Editor-in-Chief of Campus Safety. Welcome to the show. Now, before we get started, let's go over some housekeeping items. Let's take a quick look at the platform we're going to be using today. The On24 console you are looking at right now can be completely customized. You can move and resize the windows, making the video or slides larger or smaller. You will also find an array of interactive tools. So starting from the left on the bottom toolbar, you'll see a media player button so you can adjust your volume and video. On the top right of your screen is a box where you can ask questions. And just below that is a resource list or downloads box for related resources and other helpful topics, as well as resources provided by our sponsors. There is also a survey icon you can click on to share your feedback at any point during the session. Your input is extremely important to us, so before logging off today, please share your feedback to help us improve future presentations. If you have any follow-up questions or need technical assistance, just press the help icon and our producer will be glad to help you. Today's presentation will be available on demand on campussafetymagazine.com tomorrow, so feel free to check it out again if you need to review anything that was covered today. Also, feel free to share it with your colleagues. This webcast is presented by campussafetymagazine.com. We have a ton of helpful information on our website, and we have several newsletters that deliver breaking news directly to your email inbox every week. All of these resources are free, so I encourage you to visit campussafetymagazine.com to sign up for our newsletters, webcasts, videos, podcasts, educational white papers, and other helpful training materials. Also, be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and X. And now, I'd like for all of you to take out your cell phones and scan the QR code that's on your screen. Registration is now open for this summer's National Campus Safety Conference taking place in Austin, Texas, July 21st through the 23rd. The Campus Safety Conference provides school and college campus security directors, police chiefs, emergency management directors, facility management directors, and technology executives, as well as other administrators, the opportunity to meet face-to-face with their peers and share lessons learned and promising practices. So join us. For more information, scan this QR code or visit campussafetyconference.com. And don't forget to use the discount code on your screen. So now that we're done with our housekeeping, I'm pleased to introduce today's presenters. First up will be Drew Weston, who is MCA's Director of National Accounts and COO for CodeLinks. He's a technology evangelist within the security industry, helping federal, state, and commercial clients understand how new technology impacts security programs and business processes. Drew has worked with NCMS, InfraGard, and ASSA for the past 11 years and is the immediate past chair of the ASSA's Emerging Technology Committee. Also presenting today is Jim Cannon, ASSA ABLOY's Director of Business Development, with over 20 years of experience delivering safety and security solutions nationwide. Jim prioritizes end-user success and loves to help everybody, all of his customers, with that. And our third presenter is Matthew Butts, who is Transact Campus's Senior Director of Global Security Sales. He has more than 25 years experience in physical security. His expertise helps educational institutions and enterprises secure their environments while enhancing the user experience. So with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to Drew. Drew, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us, Robin. As Robin said, I am a technology evangelist. I also like to refer to myself as a tech geek. And as such, I come bringing some of my colleagues who are much smarter than I am when it comes to some of the technologies we're going to talk about today with mobile credentials and wireless locks and things along those lines. So thank you for the team for participating here with us. To tell you a little bit about who MCA is, we are essentially a systems integrator. And as I said, we brought some of our leading partners with ASSA ABLOY and Transact Campus to help show you the solutions today and kind of talk through what we've seen in the space. The key things we want to cover today is obviously higher education campuses are technology leaders. You've got very young user populations Whereas when we look, particularly the security space at large, we see typically they are technology laggards. There's still a lot of folks using prox cards and mag stripes, things like that. But you've got a very young campus population that wants to use mobile credentials. They want to use their phones. That's always attached to them. They don't want to have to carry a separate piece of plastic around. So we'll talk through all that today and show you what we are seeing from our side on the industry side of the house. I am going to burn through these first few slides relatively quickly because we really do want to get into the meat of the presentation today. So if there are any questions about anything as I go through these first couple, by all means, feel free to vote in chat and one of us will address them. Talking through some of this, excuse me. We do want to go in and look at today the way that we're seeing mobile credentials being used on a campus. So it's not just for access control. I think everybody on the call is aware of that. There's a lot of different places you can use it. But one of the things we want to talk through is the type of technologies. When we talk about mobile credentials, that's not all one thing. There's a bunch of different aspects to that. We'll talk about kind of the pros and cons of each of those different type of technologies. We'll also talk about some of the use cases that are not necessarily a security-based technology. You can use it for point of sale, you can use it at the gym, you can use it for student ticketing, whatever it happens to be. There's a lot of different things that obviously we can use those for. This is something that this is a new technology. This is an emerging technology, but this is also something we're seeing that the student populations are demanding. As I said earlier, they don't want to carry around an additional hard copy credential that they have to use and they have to lean on and remember to keep with them. Everybody on the call knows all the students on your campus are not going to lose track of their phone. So we want to make it as easy as we can to provide that access while also making sure it's scalable, it's secure, it's something that we know we can advance the technology, grow with the technology, and take on new things as they become available. Okay. Matt?
Thank you, Drew. I think it's important when we're talking mobile credentials to fully understand the different types of credentials out there. As you mentioned, there are multiple technologies. There's Bluetooth mobile credentials. There's QR codes and barcodes that are classified as mobile credentials. There's other proprietary technology out there classified as a mobile credential. But what we're really focusing on is that NFC native in the wallet mobile credential. It tends to be the most secure and quite honestly, the best user experience when you look at how they engage the different devices and the different use cases on campus. It's the most seamless experience, all while being the most secure. Obviously, it's in your phone, creating an even greater level of security, and we'll talk about it later. But you know, when a student leaves behind their ID card, it may be a couple of days before they report that, right? So when you're looking at the different levels of security, a student loses their phone or faculty or staff loses their phone, they're going to report that immediately, right? Which is just another added layer of security, making sure that credential is not running around the campus. It protects the users of that, as there are multiple use cases attached to this outside of security, point of sale transactions, that type of thing. So really what we're going to focus on today is that NFC mobile credential that lives in the wallet on your mobile device. Adoption by the numbers. So Transact and Seaboard first launched with mobile credentials back in 2018 with our solution. We've seen unbelievable growth there. Over the last 3 years, adoption rates have almost doubled. Statistically, over 200 campuses globally have implemented a mobile credential. 132 of those campuses are Transact Seaboard campuses. Milestones 500 mobile credentials provisioned. About 3.6 of those are provisioned on Transact Seaboard mobile credential campuses across the country. The forecast is not slowing down. Between 2024 and 25, experts are saying 35% growth. We think it's going to be higher than that. And by the end of 2025, 500 campuses live with the mobile credential across the globe. And again, this technology is not going anywhere. The students are driving this, they're demanding this, and we're seeing nothing but upward trajectory on the growth of mobile credential technology and deployments across the campuses across the globe.
And Jim, what are you seeing from ASSA's standpoint in terms of the adoption of some of these types of technologies?
Yeah, the growth is dramatic, and it's being driven by lots of factors. Mobile is here to stay. Matt said it best when Apple jumped in 2018. That technology, NFC, is going to be around for a long time. So by investing now, you've got a long roadmap to stay on the same technology. Adoption rates are very high.
Thank you.
And, you know, it all starts with why. Why would you want to make this switch? First, there is a cost associated with it, but also it is another project. So there's got to be multiple different reasons why you would want to make this switch. Yes, student experience is a big one. In giving them that mobile platform to go throughout the campus and access housing, campus, food outlets, library, bookstore, everything within that. But it is also about security. It is more secure. And the number one reason why it's more secure is how many times have you lent out your access control card or key to somebody to go open a door? How likely are you going to be doing the same thing with your phone? Because our phones are so connected to us, because they have so much of our lives in them, people are not going to give out their phones for any reason whatsoever. So because of that one reason, it is more secure. The operational efficiency and cost savings, it is as well, because imagine that transition out of key lines to where now you're emailing out mobile credentials before move-in dates. Sustainability is built into all the new products. It has to be. So in a lot of cases, we can give lead points to projects just because of the new technology and the energy saving because of it. So again, not just one reason why, lots of reasons why.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jim.
So what are some of the most common challenges? I'll spend a little bit of time on number one, and we'll revisit it later in the presentation as well. But stakeholder alignment. We've heard about it. Mobile credentials are used in many places on campus beyond access control. Access control is about 70% of the mobile credential transactions. It accounts for 70% of the transactions on a campus, but there's many other use cases. What does that mean? There's many other stakeholders on a campus. There's other teams, there's other influencers, right? Many people that need to be involved in this discussion. And one of the greatest barriers that we've seen in our time deploying mobile credentials is a lack of alignment by the stakeholders across campus, not being aligned on the same mission. Procurement decisions being made in a vacuum that can absolutely impact the deployment of this. If someone's looking at another use case on campus where they're deploying a technology and the intent is for that credential to be read, but then the technology deployed does not have the capability to read an NFC mobile credential, that's creating additional challenges. Obviously, legacy systems and hardware limitations, this is absolutely something that you're going to encounter as you're doing this. Going through a complete assessment, a campus assessment, look at every single use case where that student credential touches today or where you desire a student be able to leverage that credential going forward. You need to be analyzing each of those hardwares that are in place today and how do you prepare each of those hardwares or use cases for the mobile credential. Obviously, there's a cost to this, right? And there's challenges with that. There's budget constraints and limitations. Drew will talk more about overcoming that, but phasing, complex procurement RFP processes, right? As you look to upgrade your technology across the entire campus in many cases, there's going to be the need for procurement processes and in some cases RFPs. So definitely one of the challenges. And then equity, access, and adoption challenges. You typically don't see adoption challenges on campus once it's announced, once a campus markets this to the students, they create that excitement around that. The students are already looking for this technology, right? So once it's there, they understand how to do it, the adoption rates will be through the roof. But those are some of the common challenges that we've seen campuses run into as they're looking to deploy a mobile credential. Drew, how do you overcome some of those challenges?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we've seen being an integrator that we're actually taking these technologies and employing them is you do have to build consensus, but I will say this is something you need to bring in a lot of colleagues from across the campus. So you've got public safety, you've got housing, you've got facilities, you've got the administration. You may have some of the accounting folks involved, but decision by committee is basically no decision. We all know that. If you've got 20 people trying to make one decision, it's never going to happen. You do need to have the stakeholder buy-in, but basically you do need to have someone that is running that program, that is ultimately the decision maker that says, this is the way forward. We're going to work with you and have a clear communication plan of how we're going to accomplish this. We're going to roll it out in certain manners. Maybe we're only looking at that limited subset initially and going to a wider audience, but you really do have to engage the entire campus community, including the student body, alumni, prospective student body, to get that feedback, to understand how the solution is going to be deployed and what the benefits are. With that, and as Matt kind of alluded to, this is something you don't necessarily have to bite off the whole campus at one time. This is something that you may have technology that's newer and can support it. You may have to say, okay, well, let's see what our budget allows. Maybe we'll do just a certain dorm, a certain academic building. Maybe we'll do all of athletics this year and maybe all of housing next year so people can start to see it. There's ways that you can start to roll this out in incremental batches rather than trying to boil the whole ocean and cover the entire campus at once. That's something that we've certainly seen as an integrator when we're looking at, okay, what is a realistic goal for us to accomplish on a summer break or on a winter break when we've got relatively low populations on campus? There are some limitations to the physical changes that have to happen. So that is something that there is frequently a lot of opportunity for us to find ways to scale this over time. It doesn't all have to be at one big swoop from a budgetary standpoint and a timing standpoint. Matt kind of talked about cost effectiveness. One of the things we've seen, and I was actually with one of Jim's colleagues down in South Carolina a couple of weeks ago, and we were showing this some of these wireless lock technologies to them, and all of a sudden you saw the light bulb go on when they were looking at some of their storefront applications, because trying to do storefront security is very much a challenge. They've got all the big glass doors. There's nowhere for us to really run wire or mount devices. But when they saw that, oh, I could do this and just use my existing door locks and put this technology on there, and now I have this mobile access control, and I can get rid of those keys we have, they were ecstatic, because they were thinking that, okay, I've got to install a panel above the door and I've got to have people in the ceiling pulling all the wiring and doing all this stuff. They all of a sudden saw that cost to deploy went down significantly by using some of these technologies. Matt did talk obviously about procurement. These, again, you've got large campuses. This is not something you're going to do in one fell swoop in one big project. But what we've been able to do is from the MCA side of things and Transact as well, we've worked to get these technologies identified on cooperative purchasing contracts. There are some best-in-class languages you can use from other people that have already done this to craft that RFP around. There are things like NASPO Value Point and Sourcewell, and now actually the NASPO organization has the RFX Premier that is made more for the local agency level rather than the state level. So for those of you that may not be necessarily a state school on the call, there are other ways to do that, and looking at some of the cooperative contracts they have so that you don't have to go through and write your own requirement. You can still add your terms and conditions to what they've already negotiated. We've already got published discounts, and they've already gone through a competitive negotiation process. They've already gone through and we've agreed to mutual T's and C's about where indemnity and insurance and warranties and things like that lie. You can still add your own conditions to it to say, hey, this is for our procurement code here at the university. This is how we're going to tackle this. But you don't necessarily have to go through a full-blown RFP process. You can slim that down. And again, some of the best rollouts I've seen, and actually I give a lot of credit. Matt and I were talking the other day as we were prepping for this call. At their Transact 360 event back in February, they actually were giving awards to the end users who had the best rollouts. That they went through and did training, and they did social media, and they did YouTube videos talking about what they were going to do before they ever did it, to start educating the campus community on what was coming. Again, there's a lot of stakeholders that are going to end up using this technology. So some of the stuff that they were doing to incorporate that before, during, and after, it was a great program, and I'm glad that Matt and his team were recognizing universities for that. So as you start to go down this path, and I know I'm looking at the list, some of you on this call are already further down the path than others. This is something that you do want to work on setting some standards, so you don't end up in a situation where, okay, is the technology we decided to go with something that's going to be scalable long term? Are we going to be able to support this? Do we have the right technology for the right use case? I do know I had a university in South Carolina, a different university, that they actually put wireless door locks on the bathrooms. Nobody's using them for an access control standpoint, but they use them as a shelter-in-place application. Well, the problem is that's not the right application for a bathroom, because the batteries are basically burning out every 3 weeks, because those are high-volume applications. They're always being touched. They're always being accessed. So there are other ways to do that. So part of it is making sure you've got the right standard for the right use case for each technology. Jim, I know that obviously your group does a lot in working with some of the standards bodies in terms of ISO, ANSI, and I know there is also a school security standard that the ASSA organization is coming up with. Anything from your side that you've seen?
Yeah, for sure. Design standard is big. Once you've selected something, then to make sure that that is actually what is done with the projects. We, as well as others, write design standards for our end users, and we'll write it in our product as well as competitor products. So to give you a full document to cover all of your needs and ensure that that's what's given to the construction team, given to the GC, given to the engineers that are writing this up, so that you get what you're asking for, what you want. And then we can follow that with the projects, working with the architects, working with the engineer groups to make sure that they're giving you what you're asking for on your campus. It really is a collaboration, and all members are included on this to make sure that what you want is what you get.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jim.
You know, Drew started it talking about breaking down cost concerns. Pretty much every university, if you ask to do access control on a door, there's a cost associated with it, and most people know that cost of what a traditional access control system is going to cost. With the adoption of wireless locks over a decade ago, the whole goal of that was to reduce that cost, cut that cost down, and make it more affordable by integrating all of the pieces into one device. Drew brought it up about batteries. Several of the technologies are battery driven. And so you build the battery into a preventative maintenance schedule. There are lots of other options, though, where you can have wired to where it's run by PoE or other devices. But by integrating these things down together, it does reduce cost significantly. Someone mentioned earlier about phased deployment as well. A lot of campuses do it many different ways, but a lot of campuses will follow the freshman class and just take that through their experience on campus, so that over 4 years or so, you are now, your whole campus is taken care of. But it can be done in many ways. I know there's someone on this call that had a timeline and is doing all of housing in 1 year just because of need. So there is no wrong way to do it. And again, it's collaborative. We can help you through all of that.
Yeah, and I will say,
sorry.
one of the things that I just wanted to add to that, down here in the bottom right, I think everybody on this call does know grant writers in the industry. So if you do need help trying to find sourcing solutions, by all means, our information is in this presentation. Feel free to reach out to any of the three of us. We'll be happy to connect the dots to some of those grant writers who specialize in writing things for this, that already, as Jim said, they're familiar with some of the standards. They're familiar with some of the ROI things. They can write that to your specific use case of these technologies and help you find funding sources for this. Matt?
Yeah, and then when you look at demystifying the licensing structure, right? How to avoid any surprise cost? It's pretty straightforward. It's a per user per year license based off the adoption rate. So you have a good idea of what your cost is going to be year over year. It helps you to avoid any unexpected licensing cost. Obviously, it can help avoid any expensive recording that may need to be done across a campus. So it's a very straightforward model that allows you to budget. In addition to opportunities for cost recovery, if you look at the use cases on campus and that student experience, how you're tied to this, there's absolutely ways, as Drew has mentioned, that we can help secure the funding up front for projects through grants and that type of thing. But many of these use cases are revenue generating use cases as well. So creating that experience for a student, that seamless student experience, where they're going to want to stay on campus more. You're going to see more of those monies stay on campus, thus flowing through revenue back to campus services and other programs on campus as well. So I think that's a point that can't be overlooked.
Okay. So we've kind of touched on some of this already, and I will ask Matt and Jim here to chime in here in a second, but getting that stakeholder buy-in on the front end, as I talked about, there's a large group of stakeholders, whether directly or indirectly, that are going to touch these technologies. Again, you've got obviously your student and faculty populations, you've got your athletics, you've got your vendors, you've got your contractors, you've got parents, you've got alumni, and then all the individual departments on campus. So there's a lot of different folks that you're going to need to go through, and you won't always get 100% agreement, but you will get a majority to say, okay, this is what we're going to do. Particularly, you may have somebody from finance or the bursar's office that may want to look at a lower cost solution, but getting in and trying to find the best consensus is possible. But as I said, once you identify that, that is something that you definitely want to go through and have a single point of contact that is the ultimate decision maker. Once that consensus is there, say, okay, thank you, everybody. This is the way we're going. We will ask for input, but the decision making stops here. So that is something that if you have a large committee, just trying to make sure that that committee appoints someone who is trusted and everybody agrees is going to be the point person on it. Obviously, you want to look at what you have today. You do want to make a data-driven decision. Let's look at, okay, what is the state of your current infrastructure? Does it support this? Does some of these newer technologies need updated firmware in order to support some of the locking mechanisms? Does the hardware you have support that new firmware? Are there other upgrades we need to do to various components to make sure that these things work with each other? So getting in and looking at how all the technology you have today align to where you want to be, and identifying any gaps that you may have so that you can make a proper plan and not get halfway through an installation like, oh, wow, this whole building's got an older panel that won't take the firmware we need to work with the wireless locks. Now what do we do? Because school still starts in 3 weeks. We can't rip and replace this at this point. So doing that assessment on the front end and identifying where you may have potential gaps, highly encourage that, and make sure you understand where you may have anything going on. We talked a little bit about educating and engaging with internal teams. Matt, I will ask you to talk a little more about the award you were giving out at Transact Campus, at Transact 360. If you can talk a little more about, like I said, can't give you enough credit for that. I really was a fan of seeing that.
Sure, and you really covered most of it. We recognize every year the teams that make the greatest impact on their campuses, whether through technology changes, business processes. Those award winners are nominated. But we really take a look at the mobile credential, the launches. How do campuses do things differently? How are they educating their internal stakeholders? How are they socializing to the student population? What's going on? How to provision all the various steps that go along with that. And with 132 campuses that are live, we've seen many different aspects to this. We can absolutely, the team on the phone can absolutely help you with each stage of this process. You do not have to go this alone. We have launched successfully together on many campuses across the country. If you need some help with any of these steps, please bring us in. We've been down this path. We've helped many clients get there, and this is absolutely something that we can help you with as well.
You know, buy-in is huge with these large projects. And quick point is just look at the future state. Look at what it's going to change with your processes and policies down the line once this is done. That's a very important factor that a lot of people miss.
Absolutely. Jim, that was a great segue. I apologize. I was a hair fast on the trigger there.
All good.
But no, it is very much looking at where these technologies are going. That is a very key point. And one of the things that I know that obviously this team is a fan of is making sure that you do have an agnostic platform. None of us on this call, I think, are fans of proprietary technologies that have a lock-in. Obviously, if there are certain trade publications like to call it as hostage as a service. You stop paying and the campus goes dark. So that is something that we definitely, all three of us, recommend: open technology platforms using things like Mercury, using people like ASSA that will work with whatever access control system you have out there. And then obviously Transact works with all of the solutions out there, including all the various point of sale and things like that. Matt, can you talk a little more about the ecosystem your team brings from the Transact side of the house?
Yeah, again, it's more, and I know we have a very security-focused audience, right? But when you're looking at this on a higher education campus, it's more than those security use cases. You're looking at the payments aspect of this. When a student's going to go and make their tuition payment in the bursar's office, or they're going to purchase their meal in the dining facility, or go buy a sweatshirt in the student union, or Drew, as you mentioned, leverage their mobile credential to access a sporting event, a football game on a Saturday. There's so many more use cases that go into this when you're looking at building that ecosystem. And this is truly an ecosystem. It's one of the reasons that higher education has led the way in deploying mobile credentials across the globe. It's because they're built like no other vertical out there, right? They have true ecosystems that are there. So once you standardize on that NFC and you start to look at each one of these use cases, make sure that stakeholders that are looking at purchasing decisions, whether it's for point of sale or security or a kiosk, whatever it may be, that you're again aligned on NFC technology. Avoid the proprietary solutions for short-term and long-term, and make sure that all the right folks are engaged in that ecosystem as you look to build that out.
Yeah, I know Matt has talked about the NFC several times, and we were joking on the call, the prep call earlier this week, that there was a study published, I want to say it was out of Arizona, that a scientist was able to connect via Bluetooth from a satellite to his laptop. So when you're looking at technologies, there are reasons that we're all recommending NFC and other specific technologies. Matt?
Yeah, and this is just a little follow-up on that, right? When you look at the wallets where this credential lives, you've got your Apple, your Google, your Samsung devices as well. So as you're looking at an agnostic credential, continue to make sure you're looking at interoperability of the hardware that you're deploying, the softwares that you're deploying. Make sure that multi-vendor locks and readers are there for flexibility. Again, we can't understate that, right? That open, agnostic approach to the mobile credential ecosystem on campus. And then, Drew, on the next one, we'll actually walk through. I'm sorry, Jim, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're good.
This is just a quick walk through what that ecosystem looks like on campus. I know we're going to share this after the presentation, so I'm not going to walk through every single one of these. But if you're spending the day in the life of a student and what they're going to do on a daily basis, they're leaving their res hall in the morning with nothing but their cell phone, depending on the security policy on campus. They're going to show up to class. In some cases, they're actually using their mobile credential for attendance tracking in class. They're going to leave class. They're going to stop by the Starbucks and they're going to grab a coffee, and they're going to use that mobile credential at that point of sale device, at that reader. Got to go by the bookstore, the student union, and purchase something. The ability to use the mobile credential there. When you look at parking, right? Parking use cases that you may have. that's a place that you have to look. That's one of the use cases or one of the student touch points that you need to take into consideration. So again, it can't be understated, absolutely very focused, all of us, on security, but successfully deploying and creating that seamless student experience that they're looking for goes far beyond just security. And you have to take into consideration, as a campus group of stakeholders, each of those touch points on campus.
Jim, was there a comment you had? I know we were jumping over to that side.
No, no, we were talking about agnostic, and definitely just ask questions. Just ask questions. Does it work with this? And I know in a lot of our cases, we put TRIMEs in place. Put it on your system, try out the system, make sure it's going to do all the things that that salesperson says it's going to do.
Absolutely. And I know to that point, in terms of strategic partnerships, that's one of the things that my team works with Jim and his colleagues across the country frequently to do. I've probably got half a dozen demo systems running right now attached to 2 or 3 different access control systems, specifically so they can test that, including even into some federal applications where some DoD applications are starting to look at using some of these wireless lock sets for mobile credentialing in some of the barracks on a federal application. So even the government sees it. They're using a different type of credential. Obviously, they have their own requirements there. But these types of things, even in the DoD, they're seeing use cases for this. I know several of the academies are currently looking at doing some of these technologies in the near future as well. So you're certainly going to see this in all aspects, but that is something that we've certainly seen a lot of adoption. Because the 3 of us are so tightly aligned, we do work together frequently. I know several of the folks attending the call right now, we are working on current projects for you and have other projects lined up this summer. We know the teams, we've got the right trainings, we know how all the integrations between the various component software pieces work. So we also know who to go to, which is the important part. So, hey, this connection's not working right. I think it's a VPN or a firewall setting, but I can't see it from my end. All right, I know who to call on Matt's team to say, all right, Matt, help me troubleshoot this. Where I need somebody from Scott Dennison's team to sit down and look at why this connection's not establishing, so we can't get the access control system to talk to Transact. Whatever it happens to be, we know those folks. We know the integration points. We've already gone through the pitfalls together. And please, by all means, let us share our learning with you as we approach these campuses. Matt?
I think it's also important to note two other things, and you touched on it there, right? But all 3 of us and all of our businesses are very entrenched in higher education, right? We know the challenges that you are going to come up against. We have likely seen them before, whether it's a technology question, a hardware question, a procurement process question, whatever it may be. We have likely navigated that with one of our other campuses as a team. We can absolutely help you navigate that as well. I think the other piece to note is each step of this process, right, is where this partnership pays off, from that initial stakeholder alignment through the assessment, right? All 3 parties and businesses coming in to help with that. But also, it can't be understated, the support afterwards, right? Launching is just step 1. You've invested in this beautiful, seamless ecosystem on campus, and that needs to be maintained. And we've got partners like MCA and ASSA that help do that as well. They're going to help make sure that there's no downtime. You know, there's preventative maintenance agreements and audit reports and various things like that. So every step of the process, through the evaluation to the actual deployment of the software, the hardware, on through the support, is when this partnership truly pays off.
Yeah, and we've definitely seen it over the last few summers where we've had some pretty big lifts to accomplish and making sure the resources are aligned. So the next Monday after students leave campus, we're coming in with teams from all 3 parties to start attacking those campuses, so that we know that by the time the students come back in August, the campus is ready for everybody to be received. So, Jim?
Yeah, also learn from each other. There are universities all over the country that are going through exactly what you're talking about right now, and learn from them. Georgia Tech has one of the largest in the country right now, and they've done a very good job of asking the right questions, taking their time, and getting it right. So ask them, what did they miss? There are a lot of great resources out there to say, hey, if we're not getting mobile adoption, how do we get more? And how can we get help with that? Just ask questions.
Yeah, and by all means, feel free to look for us. I know Robin mentioned the event that they're doing later this summer. I know all three of us are going to be at the NCS4 event this summer and a lot of other things. Come find us. We're there. And a lot of the folks Jim just mentioned, they're also there. We're happy to connect you. Hey, you've got a question about XYZ? So-and-so's in the other room. Let me give them a call and see if they can come over and talk to you. Don't take my word for it. Talk to another end user.
100%.
To that point, one of the things, and this is something that we at MCA have really started to look at as we have brought some of these universities to scale, is to look at some of the data that they're actually generating from their systems, to look at the transactional data and do things like internal and external benchmarking, where we'll take your data, anonymize yours, and you'll know which data set is yours, but allow you to see, okay, how do you compare to others? Maybe how do you compare to a Power 5 versus a small private university? So we can go through and help you look at some of that. Again, we talked about lessons learned, things like that. But we know that, again, you're not going to boil the ocean. You're not going to take on a whole large campus in a couple of weeks over the summer. So let us work with you to build a plan and make sure that it's an iterative plan. It's calculated, or it's taking in feedback. You're incorporating it, making sure you're improving the next iteration. Hey, let's do a post-mortem on this summer's install. Let's see what worked, what didn't, what can we do better next time, so that we get to the next break, whether that's fall break, winter break, spring break, next summer, whatever it happens to be, we don't experience those same mistakes. Maybe we need to get on campus a week earlier and make sure that we've got all the keys to the cans where all the access control hardware is. Maybe we had issues with some of the wiring, whatever it happens to be. Let's make sure that we're actually capturing that feedback, documenting that, and learning lessons as we go. And we know that these are technologies that are going to continue to evolve. Let's make sure that we've talked about, both Jim and Matt have said, we want to make sure that whatever technology you select, it's something that will scale with you over time. We know that there are use cases that none of us on this call are thinking about, that 2 or 3 years from now, someone's going to be, oh, well, can it do this too? Or can I do that also? So let's make sure that we're utilizing that experience, utilizing those resources. Let us compare you to your peers. We have that data, and we can help you see what all this information looks like. Matt or Jim?
Go ahead.
On the data side, we all know with new technology and especially mobile, there's a lot of data that's driven with it. So now as a campus, you can look at new ways to use that data. There's a school in Alabama that is using that data to market their athletic events to the students in a new way. So now you do have growth capability. You actually have new revenue stream capability that you never had access to before. So there are lots of reasons to do this.
And specifically to the mobile credential, right? There's reporting that comes along with that. You're going to be able to see adoption rates. You're going to be able to see use cases and transactions. Was it a financial transaction to purchase something in the dining facility of the student union? Was it an access control transaction to access, an IN-120 on a door? What you're going to get that information, and you can take and you can tailor your program, right? Where do I need to focus my marketing efforts with my students to help grow those adoption rates, right? You can identify, Jim, great point, identify other use cases as well, where maybe we need to solve for, where it's a new use case that you want to look at as a campus. We would like to provide the ability for a student to use their mobile credential at X. Use that data, look for continuous ways to improve your adoption rate, your ecosystem, and all the other KPIs that you may be measuring.
Yeah, and I can say one of the coolest ROIs that I've seen of putting some of these technology in is the university was able to, for some of their large athletic events, they were able to look at when people were coming through the turnstiles using the mobile credentials and use that data to make staffing decisions about when and where they need to place people and adjust headcount appropriately. Okay, when is my surge actually happening? What do I need to have in terms of volume of bodies there to support all those people coming through? That data is powerful to make decisions on actual operational things that impact the bottom line of the university. So wanting to recap, obviously these are technologies that are here to stay. They are still new technologies, so most people may not be using them today, but it is something that we're seeing a tremendous uptake on. This is something that obviously it is about efficiency, both from my standpoint as an integrator, the installation efficiency makes my life a lot easier. Well, obviously from a campus standpoint and Matt's information earlier about some of the other applications that they can do with these types of mobile credentials. But there's a lot of different ways that we can find value out of deploying these solutions and reduce cost as compared to more traditional installs. So, I mean, if it is a higher secure environment, if you've got a research facility that is doing work for the government and they have a SCIF, okay, we may not be able to deploy some of these wireless technologies. We may have to hardwire this. We can. That comes at a higher cost. It takes the manpower to run everything and install everything that way. But you've got options. So depending on what's right for the application, we can work with you to figure what that is. This is something that we talked about a lot throughout the presentation today, that you really do have to do a lot of collaborating, a lot of communicating, a lot of consensus building to make sure that what you're designing, what you're selecting, what you're going forward with fits the long-term needs for the campus. So this is something that we're going to make sure that, and it's not a one-off. It's not something that you do now and you don't ever touch again. As you're deploying it, as you're having new releases, Matt talked a lot about the education programs and having that iterative communications to internal and external stakeholders. Hey, we want to let you know that since last fall, when you're coming to the athletic events, this is how it's now going to work this year, and put a video out there. I actually worked with a couple of campuses that deployed stuff this past season, and at the homecoming game, they actually had their videographers from campus recording everything so they could do that. They could make a YouTube video to post on their channel to say, hey, this is the new experience for everyone who may not have seen it yet. So there's a lot of that you can do to help build those programs and educate the people on campus. As we talked about earlier, we're here as resources for you. Our information is in the slide deck and in the brief. Feel free to reach out to us. Any of the three of us can help you, whether it's a funding conversation, an assessment or consultation, whatever it happens to be. Let us help you on your journey. As Jim talked about, we can get you demo gear. We can get stuff for you to play with and try out and figure out what is the right model for you, or what are the right models, plural. Again, it's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all when it comes to some of the locking and reading technologies. We do want to make sure that in terms of the technologies you're selecting, that they all work with the mobile credentials. But there are certain applications where you're still going to need a hardwired technology. We want to make sure that hardwired technology works identically and seamlessly with the wireless technology. So, Jim, anything else from you?
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. Try it out. There was a question about the wireless technology, and the answer is there's lots of different technologies. Wi-Fi 2.4 as well as 5. There is some 900 megahertz things. There is PoE. There is still hardwired options as well. So lots of different options. Every campus has their unique things, and we can help with all that.
Matt?
And I will say one step that's not here, right, is you can always lean on this group. You can always lean on our companies. But after 25 years in the physical security industry, I have never seen a community as tight as the higher education community. There's already 140, 150 plus campuses across the US that have deployed this technology. Lean on them, ask questions to gain comfortability, to get you in a position where you're ready to take the next step and start that assessment process or begin to socialize those conversations and planning on campus. But leverage that community, because it's an unbelievably tight community who's willing to help one another, and they will actively share information and, quite honestly, help you avoid challenges that you may not be able to see right now. So I know it's not noted there, but I thought it was important, Jim, you referenced that. And absolutely, the higher education community is leading the way with mobile credentials and willing to help one another.
And
Yes.
Robin, I'll turn it back over. Are there any, I have been keeping an eye up, are there any Q&A that we need to share with the team?
Yeah, here we go. Just a few questions. How often do the different systems lose contact with the Access system in your experience? Once a month, once a year, once a Windows update? Does this technology setup require any additional staff as compared to standard proc systems? What are the biggest problems when connecting to other systems? Woo! Problem systems, infrastructure update, breaking connections. Wow, let's see. If a student has an iPhone and an Apple Watch, can each one be deactivated individually? Will they appear as different devices in an audit trail? How does the battery life of NFC devices compare to Prox devices? There are like 5 bazillion questions there, so yeah. I think you guys just break it down.
Yeah. Why don't we start at the bottom with how does battery life of NFC devices compare to Prox devices? Very similar. There is one major difference with NFC over other mobile credential in that even if a phone is dead, NFC credential can still work for a period of time with a dead phone. That isn't the case with all other mobile credentials. As far as battery life of the lock, it's going to be very, very similar. Based on the technology, it can be anywhere from a year up to 5 years of battery life. And the system is going to tell you all along the way what battery life is, what's going on with battery life. Matt, you want to take the one about the iPhone and Apple Watch?
Yeah, I was going to say before Matt goes into that, yeah, a lot of it does depend on the use case of the door as well. If it is something that's a high touch, high application, obviously that's going to have a lower battery life than something that's used once or twice a day. But yeah, I will absolutely defer the Apple device question to Matt.
Sure. The answer is actually both, right? So as an admin, you can retire or remove credentials for all of the students' credential access at one time or individually. So if I'm as well as a student can. So if I'm a student and today I'm leveraging a watch and I have my phone and I misplace my watch, I actually have the ability to go in and disable just the watch, right? And keep my phone credential live, the mobile credential on the phone. As an admin, as a campus admin, you have the ability to disable a student every one of their credentials at the same time. So the answer is
And Robin, I know there was a lot to that. Do we hit most or all?
I think so.
Yeah.
I am hearing some background noise. So if whoever's got the background noise going on, if you could mute while, let's see.
Yeah, I apologize.
How
There was
systems...
one.
I'm sorry.
There was one other about connection, and just as with hardwired systems, if there is disconnection, the device is still operational for a period of time. It won't get updates, just as if it's a wired system. But then as soon as it comes back, it will get updates. As far as technology setting up any additional staff, no, it's very, very similar. And in fact, it can reduce staff in a lot of ways, but it really comes down to what your use case is and fitting the right technology for it.
And just so you know, the person who asked this question, all 3 of our presenters are going to actually look at it, and they'll probably be able to provide you a more in-depth answer after just via email or via a phone call. So, but they answered it as best they could, considering that there's a lot going on here. So they will probably get back to you. So please forgive us if we didn't get to everything. Let's see. One question: what steps should we take to assess our campus's NFC readiness, and how long does that process typically take?
I can take that one.
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
The process really starts by bringing the stakeholders together and looking at a student's daily life, right? Where do they leverage their physical credential today, that plastic credential or barcode? All those use cases, you need to identify those and then look at the technology that's in each one of those use cases today. Going a step further, right? Look at the use cases where you would like for a student to leverage their credential. Where is there a use case on campus you can create a more seamless experience for that student, a better experience for that student, and then begin identifying those. The process can be as simple as a couple hours of a meeting. It helps if you have the right people in the room, obviously, and you've done some of your homework beforehand. But the process could also take, if it's a committee involved, it could take a couple of weeks or a couple of months. So really the answer is as fast as you want to move. But where do you get started? That's number one. Get the right people in the room and look at everywhere that student leverages that credential today or where you desire them to be able to use that credential in the future.
Yeah, and from the technology side specifically, it's relatively easy for us to get into your current access control system, do a survey of what the hardware you have, what controllers, what type of readers, what firmware those are running, because that can be a big deal for the actual wireless locks. But that's something that we can pretty easily suss out from your existing data set relatively quickly.
Gentlemen, we have run out of time. Thank you so much for your presentation. By the way, your presentation, we were pretty much talking about mobile credentials, but so much of what you talked about applies to practically any kind of security installation. So thank you so much for that. For those of you in our audience whose questions we didn't get to today, Drew, Jim, or Matt, or perhaps all three will respond to you individually after the presentation. We appreciate all of you in our audience, so thank you for attending. We also want to thank MCA, Transact Campus, and ASSA ABLOY for sponsoring this presentation. Be sure to visit MCA online at callmc.com. Also, be sure to like and subscribe to Campus Safety's YouTube channel and follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And of course, please sign up for our newsletters. They're free. If you want to watch this webcast again or share it with your peers, a recording will be available on demand tomorrow, so feel free to check it out again. And be sure to, you can share it with your peers. We'd love to hear your feedback on this presentation, so please take a few minutes to complete our survey. It will pop up on your computer screen when you go to leave the webcast. So with that, thanks again to you and our audience for attending, and thank you, Drew, Matthew, and Jim, for your wonderful presentation. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.